All right. Local Marketing Engines free webinar event, day number 4, guys. We have made it. Today, I decided to do something interesting. I decided to go live on Facebook with this as well. So that is actually just live on my personal wall. Unfortunate news, I'm not going to get too far into it, but Stephen's not able to be here again today. I just want to wish him the best, and if all of you guys can just wish him the best with what's going on. It's not my business to divulge in what way, but it is a big enough deal that he just simply cannot be on, unfortunately. So I thank you all for attending and being here with me again today. Please give me a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. I want to make sure that I'm not speaking to a room full of my own air. All right, thank you so much for that, number 1. Good, I got some 1s rolling here. Okay, so what I've done the past couple of days, I'm going to do again today, is we'll take a couple of minutes to just kind of talk through some stuff and get a sense for the crowd that I have with you. What did you say, Lil? Did I say Lil? I might have. I don't know. I was in the moment, Tim. Don't judge me. All right, so good. I see some familiar faces. Some of you guys have been with me every single day. I appreciate that attention and willingness to show up and spend that time with me. It means that somehow, some way, I'm doing something right for you guys. So I do appreciate that. So here we go. I just want to, I've got on my other screen here, I've got my Facebook feed up just so I can see if there's any comments that come through on that, and I can address or try to address maybe something there. I don't know if I gotta mute myself there so that way. Actually, I don't even want to play it. Do me a favor while I'm working that out, you guys, if you would please, again, in the chat box, this is what we've done to start every other one of these off. Let me know what it is that you're working on. And today I want to get a little bit deeper. So if you're doing like a local SEO agency or digital marketing agency, or you're working on affiliate stuff or lead gen or what it is, please put in the chat what it is that you're working on and then how long you've been working on it. So if you've been in business for a year, for 2 years, less than a year, whatever that is, just so I can get a sense for where you guys are at experience-wise and whatnot. No, it is not going live in the Bulletproof group right now, Larry. Great. Okay, local SEO agency, 2 to 5 years. Okay, I'll let that. I got to pick one of those numbers apparently, Timo. I appreciate it though. Yes, just on my page, just for friends, I got a good number of people there, and I just it's as I told you guys before, I'm doing some testing with this stuff. Or maybe I said this on my Facebook when I did the announcement, and this is part of the testing. I just want to see, I know what kind of audience I've gotten doing this stuff the last few days on the Zoom call itself. I want to see if there's anything that perks on the Facebook side as well. And I think that's fair of me because I'm going to deliver value through this whole process. So, okay, great. Local agency just getting started. Okay, 2 years. Thank you for clarifying that. All right, so we still have a few people coming in here today. Today I don't have as formal of a presentation prepared because I was expecting that we were going to have Stephen on. He was feeling better from being sick, but unfortunately something else has happened. So what we're going to do is I'm going to riff on some things and see if I can't spark some questions from you guys. But if you can give me some questions that you may have, I see somebody just wrote in here, they're just getting started with the local SEO agency. Please feel free to ask any questions that have been burning in your mind. Let's see, trying to start for years, need 2 clients ASAP, lead gen. Okay, great. Great. What is SEO? That's actually, I know you, Tim, and you might be asking to be funny, but that's actually a very fair question. I will get into that so people really understand what that means and how we're dealing with it, because this is a question you'll get posed by your clients an awful lot. And if you know the answer to that, you get one step further. And if you guys watch some of my other replays, part of what I talked about in my sales process is being the unquestionable authority. That's not like, you know, dominating over anything. It's just having an answer for whatever might come up in a sales conversation and having a confident answer. And this is one of those questions that's really good for that. So just starting SEO, taking me a long time to get my head around. Okay, great. Well, we can get into some stuff today then. You guys have already given me some good stuff to roll on here. I just want to see real quick, I'm going to check in on this Facebook thing. And oh, hey Ryan, what's happening, man? Cool. My buddy Ryan showed up on the Facebook Live there. So by the way, if you guys go to my wall on Facebook, just my personal one, after this call, you don't have to do it right now, but I posted a video from Ed Milet, which that guy's phenomenal. Like if I might be close, I'm not 100% there, but I might be close to saying I want to be Ed Milet when I grow up. Really, really super cool guy. Great little video to watch. That's really inspiring. So, all right. So let's see. Just starting SEO. Should I start with ads? Okay, we'll get into that for sure. We talked about that a little bit on one of the other calls, but yeah, we'll get up with what. But sorry, I'm reading two different. Somebody just posted what's up, and on one thing that I'm looking at, and the other one I'm trying to answer a question. So I said we'll get up instead of we'll get to that and explain all the details there. So let's go ahead and get started. I've given a couple of minutes there for more people to come on. So let's talk a little bit about starting an SEO agency. And I'm going to tell you guys kind of my story on how I got started with my agency and the moves that I chose to make, the things that I regret doing and the things that I feel like I should have done instead, and kind of give you this thing. And then I'll kind of pull this back together to hopefully something cohesive that you guys can take some real dedicated, directed action on. Okay. So since there's a lot of people just sort of starting out or trying to get the traction going with the business, the very first thing when I started my agency, the first step in my mind for this was that I absolutely, without question, had to take a chance. And you guys out of a comfort zone. I'm learning this new thing. I'm opening up to a world of unknowns, right? I don't know what to expect here. And that can be a little scary for people. And for me, it was really a psychological thing in my decision-making to go forward with this. And I knew that I was walking away from seemingly guaranteed income with a job that I had at the time to something where I didn't know I was going to have to make it. I was going to have to make it work. I wasn't excited about the job anymore. It became where I was more excited about building this agency than I was about the job. And that took me a little while to get there. So be real with yourself with how excited or what pull, what attraction or aversion you have to this actual idea. Is this, where are you at on a level from 1 to 10 with it? Because if you're not above a 5, 6, or 7, somewhere in there on moving towards this, you're gonna be tripping up over things, and you're not gonna see the opportunities that are in front of you as clearly as if you're as if you were, right? If you're down there and you're kind of a 5 or below, and you're still kind of tire kicking and just not so sure, you've got to have a real serious conversation with yourself. Is this really what I want to do, or am I just playing around here? And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that as a judgment. I started digital marketing in 2008, and I was a hobbyist for years. I was below a 5 for years, guys, before I really started getting serious with it and actually built something out of it. So I've been in and around and doing this stuff for over a decade. But really professionally for only about half that time, like really seriously out on my own, 100%. That's okay to be in that place. And that's why I say, don't say it with any degree of judgment or whatnot, but I do, going back, I look back on where I was at in the decisions I was making then and why I was getting into digital marketing. And quite honestly, I regret not diving in back then. Everybody at any point in time, if you were starting SEO today, all you're going to hear is stories about the glory days of SEO that were even last year or 2 years ago, right? I missed a huge wave. It cost me probably millions of dollars by not getting serious about that sooner. Now, different things in life, you know, I had at that point in time, there was other life things going on, a brief marriage, and you know, some not so fun things happening around that, and you know, all sorts of other chaos that kept me from being focused. But had I focused, I would be in a much different place today as a result. So that's something you really need to think about: is what level of focus are you going to put into this? Are you going to eat, sleep, and breathe it for a little while until it becomes a subconscious thing? And then how do you build the path to do that, right? Because the next piece of that is go, well, cool, I can go into this unknown, Josh, I could dive into this pool, but what then? You know, like, I don't know how to swim. I'm not even sure if I float in water or I sink, right? Like, there's all these sort of unknowns around this idea. So that's where your training comes in, right? In the military, they talk about this a lot. They go through lots and lots of training, and they say when push comes to shove, your training will kick in, right? When you're in a real situation. And that's sort of how all of this works, right? That's how the human mind works. That's how life works. So you're in the right place as far as training. You guys are looking at the right things. You're looking at starting this agency. So let's get into something that's probably more what you were expecting me to say than that, because sometimes going into the psychological stuff or the you know, I wish I had sort of stuff isn't as tangible as at moving you forward. But I think it's important for a groundwork. You have to check in with yourself, because this whole thing called life, this whole thing called business, this whole thing that we do while we're alive on this planet is all meeting ourselves halfway. Somewhere, the only thing that stands in our way from what we want to do, and the only thing that keeps the things that we love intact, is ourselves. And you have to acknowledge that piece of it, and not just say, oh, this is a cool thing that I think I'm interested in. No, you have to go be there and be that thing, become that person, right? So starting out, I got my first client through networking. And this was actually before I was even involved with anything that Steven had going on. I was networking just in town. I started going to some networking groups and whatnot. It was an acquaintance of mine at the time. We became really good friends over the years, and was a great client. I sat down with them. I said, hey, here's what I'm doing. And I was doing I was selling basically like an online brand presence establishment package. So for you guys that know the lingo, right? Like, there was some citations involved. There was a little like one-page lead gen site that was involved. It was setting up the social profiles and sort of doing like very, very minor phase one stuff that we do for SEO. But at the time, I didn't know anything about SEO. It was just because I'd seen some other training, and I said, great, I'm going to try this stuff. I'm going to commit, make it work. Let's go out and do this. So I was going door to door. I literally would just walk in. It was after work, I'd just go start walking door to door in town, start talking to people, get involved in networking groups. And one of the things that you guys need to know about business, and again, this applies to life as well, but specifically with business, action breeds action. And the more action you take, even if you're not in full psychological alignment with it, the more opportunities are going to come up. And you're either going to rise to the occasion or and succeed, or you're going to rise to the occasion and fail, or you're not going to take the opportunity, right? So those are the only outcomes that possibly exist when you're doing that. And the more you get out there and converse with people. Now, listen, guys, I'm a huge introvert. I'm not a like go out there and get it done guy. Like some of you, I know I've talked to people before that are like, you know, I could never go live on Facebook like you do, or this or that. And I promise you could. But I had to learn how to put on that show. I've talked about this numerous times in my sales training about having to figure out how to be the person that can actually do this stuff, right? So it wasn't a given thing for me. Like I tell you guys for sure, like I was the weird kid off in the corner for sure, because I didn't know my place in the world. I didn't know how to fit into anything. I didn't know what my value was in any way, shape, or form, and therefore I didn't really know how to connect or talk or do anything except for my small little group of friends growing up, you know. And those people, once I got past those initial barriers with people, I was an open book, right? Like everything was totally normal and fine, but that weirdness of strangers, and I don't know, like, how do I fit in with this person or that person? That's something I struggled with for at least half my life, right? I had to learn how to put that on. So going out networking, there was times where I was sitting in the car, you guys, just going, I got to be able to do this. Just to walk in the door of a business and ask them if they need help. Okay, I want to think about how simple that is. Give me a hashtag. Give me a hashtag anxiety if you guys have felt that before. If you guys understand like the tension of what it might mean to approach a stranger and ask them if they want to buy your services in the chat. Give me a hashtag anxiety, right? Yeah, thank you for being honest there. I definitely appreciate that. If you guys have never felt that and that's not a problem, give me a hashtag NP for not a problem, because I don't want to spend too much time here if you guys haven't had that issue. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I know you Tim, for sure. So that's where I started, is in this place of very restricted sort of feeling space, but I knew I had to step out. So this is the biggest thing I can tell you guys to do, and that's why I've spent so much time on this piece of it, is every step of the way, step out of your comfort zone. Every step of the way, face that anxiety. Every step of the way, make sure you're pushing yourself and meeting that new self that you're going to become through this process halfway. It has to be that way, you guys, if you're in a space of struggle with it. Now, from a more structural standpoint on the agency, there's a couple things that I wished I would have done early on. So I was getting some clients that way. I ended up getting a partnership with a web design company, and ultimately was working for them, and some different things that spawned, and it, my client base exploded as a result, and I got all of this experience doing all of these different things. And that was over I don't know what the time frame was on that, but that's stretched out a bit. That's not like a short compressed thing. So with that, one of the things that I wished I would have done first and foremost is, as I started to make a little bit of money, as I started to get some money rolling through the business, I wished that I'd put at least one good virtual assistant in place early on. I wish that I would have bit the bullet before I got too far, before I got too carried away. And some people say wait to do that, but the problem is, if you're like me, which I've got a little bit of an obsessive personality when it comes to the things I get interested in. So like I don't just dabble in something very much. Usually I'm all in and it consumes me. So for me, I started taking on too much. I started going, okay, cool, this SEO stuff is really neat. Well, what's landing page conversion all about? How do you do how do you do copywriting? Like what's that sort of stuff? How does Facebook ads play into this? Oh, geez, there's this other thing called AdWords, and oh, there's this and this and this and this. And it caused me to get good at all of those things, but it cost me all my time. Right? Like I've just overloaded in work, fast forwarding, where if I had that VA to begin with, I could still have gotten into all of those things and never gotten overwhelmed, right? So let's see, I got a couple questions coming in here. So where has it been most helpful? Where has it failed or been impossible to get quality done? What should we never outsource? Great, let me read this other question too to see if it fits. Have you encountered home service niche where jobs whose people are mainly provided by insurance companies to them? Okay, I'll get to that one. So the outsourcing piece, because I'm talking about that at the moment, I personally think you should outsource as much as you possibly can. Now, the fear always comes up, well, what about quality? Where is anybody going to do it as good as I can? And that's something that I actually have quite a problem with. But here's what I've learned with this, is that you have to acknowledge that other people are going to do some part of that job. And here's an easy way to think about this. If I was hiring somebody, and I'm not right now, but if I was hiring somebody to do some SEO tasks, right? How many of you on this call right now would be like, hire me? I want to do that and get that experience and do those things. If you said yes to yourself on that, that's the same that you're going to look, that's the same quality you're going to look for in your VA, because a person who's driven towards learning and doing it good is what you want, even if you have to train them. Now, if you can find somebody who's driven that already has the skills, that's even better. But there's nothing wrong with training a person on the systems and processes. And for most of you guys, what's really great is most of you guys have learned through courses that you've purchased. Some of those courses I've been a coach in, others I'm sure not. But the fact of the matter is you can give them the training through the course, and you have to. I've talked to some people about this, and they're really fearful. Like, well, what if this person leaves and goes and works with somebody else? So what? So what? There's so much potential out there. So what? You put training in place, and you make sure that you can plug people into that training. That will save you more time than you could possibly imagine. Now, it can also add stress if one of those people quits or they don't come through. You know, I remember Tim just put this in the chat, that when you hire people, you must, Tony Robbins says, when you hire people, you must be able to accept that they're going to mess up. I was sitting in my little town a couple years ago when the Tony Robbins movie came out on Netflix. Tony Robbins came to our town. They did a panel with the director and Michael Moore, and we were out till 2 a.m. or something in this small theater with Tony Robbins. It was really, really cool. And that's one of the things he said. He says, listen, right now I have over 1,200 employees, and I guarantee you there is a measurable percentage of them screwing something up right now. And if you look at corporate America, guys, it runs at extreme inefficiency. There are so many holes in the process. There are so many people making mistakes, costing the company money all of the time, but those mistakes do not outweigh the profit. So you need to build your business to absorb those and get the help in place with somebody who cares about getting it right if something does get messed up. Because when you have that help, you can be infinitely more confident and you can move much faster. Because I got to a point where I was like, I can't take on the work you're asking me to take on because I'm too stressed about having to fulfill it. I'm too busy already, right? And that's not a good place to grow a business from. It's just, you can't grow your business if you're in that place. So that's the number one thing that I would have done much earlier. As soon as I started feeling a little bit comfortable with the money coming in, I would have stayed uncomfortable to spend $500 to $1,000 a month on getting a virtual assistant to handle some of the tasks for me to free my time back up so I could continue to focus on moving forward. I would have a much bigger business today. Now, part of that is like I'm not a big business guy that way. Like my interests in this are different than a lot of other people. I'm not always chasing the giant profit and the giant money. For a long time, I've just been chasing the opportunity and the experience of being involved with things, and I really enjoy that. So some of that's going to change, is changing right now, but nonetheless, that's been my real focus, is just to be involved and have these cool experiences working on these things and learning and growing, and much more of a personal thing for me than a business thing. But the business still has to run, right? It can't not be business. So that's the number one thing that I would have done, and I would have talked to way more people. I would have just continued to push that comfort zone and talk. It doesn't matter how it doesn't matter how many people you talk to. At some point, there's a tipping scale, right? At some point, somebody's going to go, I like you. I want to give you a chance. I like you. What can you do for my business? Hey, you're doing this stuff. And maybe that sparks later on down the road. Maybe that's a year from now that somebody comes back to you and go, oh, I remember I talked to that Josh guy. He does that digital marketing stuff, right? So awareness is everything. If you guys have followed Grant Cardone at all, that's his main thing. Like, awareness overshadows everything. Your biggest problem is obscurity, right? So focusing only on there's a couple questions here, and Michael, I'll get to your question on the insurance companies one once I get through this little part. I'm not going to spend too much more time here, but I think it's still important stuff. So another thing that comes up, and Michael just asked this, is, should you be focusing on a specific niche when starting out? And personally, I don't think so. I talked about this on one of the other calls. Somebody asked me what niches to be involved with. And honestly, there's very few. I have a list of niches I won't be involved with. But otherwise, it's wide open, because once you understand the customer, once you understand the buying process of the customer and how the business fulfills that, marketing is sort of the same across the board, right? Like your keyword research for SEO is going to be the same if you're going to do Facebook ads. Like you have to know what's important to the person. So just like yesterday, we talked about all these sales frameworks as concepts. That's the concept that I take with a niche. Now, can deep industry knowledge help in some situations? Absolutely, for sure. But that's what the person who is your job in that case is to get that knowledge out of the person who is the expert you're working with, right? So if you're working with a dentist, you might not know dental stuff. That doesn't mean you can't market it. It means that you need to find the information you need to be able to market it. That means talking to the dentist, right? Hey, how does this work? Explain to me this situation. Give me the A to Z here. Somebody walks in the door and says, I have a toothache. What happens next? Right? Give me the whole process so I can visualize this in some 3D sort of map and look at it from a 30,000 foot view. And now I can start to connect dots to that, right? So I would say starting out, my opinion is don't limit yourself to a niche. There can be sales angles that make sense to be very niche focused, for sure. Like, is it easier to sell a roofer on your services if you're a general provider or if you only work with roofers? Roofers believe it's more valuable if you only work with roofers, right? That's not necessarily true, though. That's not a cold hard fact. In that case, that's just a sales angle, and you need to be able to work the other sales angle to say, well, listen, my experience goes beyond roofing to a different degree. So not only can I do everything that the guy who's focused on roofers only, because there's only so much information there, I can actually take it a step beyond, and I can pull promotions and thoughts and marketing angles from other projects that might seem to have no connection to roofing whatsoever, but I promise you are going to help the situation that you're dealing with now, right? I can offer a broader perspective. So, you have to play that sales game that way. The next thing that I wish I would have done a little bit differently in growing everything is I wish that I would have focused on less services and stayed on the course of just a couple core products until I built the business big enough to absorb the expense of introducing new services. So here's what I mean by that. It's one thing to, and you guys know this, right? It's one thing to take a course, to learn from somebody, to be mentored by somebody on a particular thing and know how to do it. Then it's another thing to do it, right? And then it's another thing to do it for an extended period of time. So those are different phases of expertise, let's say. When you come in with a lower expertise on a newer service, when you don't have profound expertise on the other one, you start to play this scramble game in your mind because you want to be effective. You want to be as good as you can be for the client that you're working with, but you may not have the muscle memory built yet. So in that particular instance, you have to you have to decide what's more important. Is it more important for me to try to figure this out and fulfill for this client that I may not feel 100% confident to do so? Or is it better for me to continue to sell the thing that I am really confident on until I get to a financial point where I can pull my attention away and become really proficient here? And there's pros and cons to both. When you overwhelm yourself, which has basically been that's my business model, overwhelm myself and sort it all out and figure it out, there's a point of diminishing returns. So keeping yourself within a band of discomfort that you can work within without going so far into discomfort that you shut down. That's a really important piece to understand. Know your limits of your band of discomfort. You should always be pushing a state of discomfort to grow into being the person that can do this, but you'll know when you push too far because you'll shut down. Your mind will shut off. You won't be as quick. You'll be pushing against work, and all sorts of things will start to happen that are a little more chaotic, and you won't have this sort of smooth business experience that you probably deserve. So let's see here. Let me get to a couple of these. So I hope you guys starting out with your agencies, I hope that's helpful, because really the starting phase is almost all, in my opinion, psychological. The tactical stuff with SEO especially, it's fantastic because Google doesn't produce results very quickly. So if you're still a little fuzzy on one thing to do, like you can take a day or two and go really learn that, ask some questions in some groups and get tactical on those things before you actually have to deploy them. It's not like a Facebook ad where if you screw up today, you lost money today, right? If you're on an SEO campaign, as long as you're doing it within the time frame that you've allowed, which is normally billed monthly, right? You have the ability to sharpen your pencil as you need. The psychological piece is the biggest part in starting, if you ask me. And the easiest way to get over that is to just start talking to people. Just start communicating, start connecting, start being the person who presents themselves as the agency owner. Hey guys, this is me. Shake the hand, shake the hand, right? Go to your BNI meetings, and I'll give you a hint on networking because somebody just talked about sales here in another question in meeting face to face. When you guys are in a networking environment, you have to realize one thing, and this is one of the biggest tips I can give you if you're starting out. Whenever you're talking to somebody, the only thing they care about is themselves. The only thing they're paying attention to is how can I get business from this person standing in front of me. So the way that you get business is by standing out and being different. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with ways to get attention. In the way that you stand out and be different in a networking environment is that you don't look to be the person getting business from the person in front of you. I know that sounds counterintuitive. You want to be as interested in what they have going on as humanly possible. And you want to ask questions. So what this might look like, what this could be if you were in this networking situation, somebody goes, "Oh, hi, my name is Sally. I'm a real estate agent. What's your name?" "Oh, my name is Josh." "Great. Hey, Sally, tell me a little bit about what was your favorite project that you worked on recently with real estate?" "Oh, we had this beautiful house out on the water, and it was this and this, and it was 1.2 million. And I was so excited because the couple, blah, 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 blah." "Oh, really? That's really cool. Do you do a lot of those?" And you just keep directing a question back to them. You keep them talking about them, because there's something that happens with psychology. When you are a person that is intentionally being interested in what another person is talking about, you connect at a much different level rather than being the person that goes, "All right, where can I get my words in?" And at some point, that person is going to go, "Oh my gosh, we spent all this time talking. I don't even know what you do." "Oh, I do this digital marketing stuff. I help local businesses get more business through providing more leads using websites like Google, Facebook, and other social media sites." "Oh, wow, that's really, really cool. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I enjoy doing it quite a bit. Hey, you know what? You just reminded me of something. How do you deal with, like, do you have employees or assistants or anything that help you with these real estate things? Like, some of these projects seem like they're really, really big." Oh, no, not really. I mean, we kind of just handle it all on our own." "Oh, well, that's awesome. That sounds like you have to have a pretty solid skill set to be able to do that." Right? So if you guys can imagine that conversation, you're always directing it back, but you subtly let somebody know, and everybody is exchanging business cards. And the other thing that most networking environments have is the ability for you to stand up at some point and have the entire room watching you, and you get to give your 30-second elevator pitch. It's much better for you to be the guy that people like in that room when you give your 30-second elevator pitch than for them to be like, "Oh, I don't know who this guy is." And it's not a conversation piece. It's actually an attention piece. And it's not because you've talked so much and been the expert. You're not to that point to show your expertise yet with that relationship. So when you guys go into these networking environments, nurture the relationship, not the sale. That is gigantic. My friend Chad Feingold is a master at this. And he's built relationships for years. I've watched him do it, and he kicks butt at it, and it's never about getting a sale. And if a sale doesn't happen, so what? You got a new person that likes you that's going to promote you when they have a chance. You're in this networking group. They get points for promoting you if they find an opportunity to promote you, right? So use that to your advantage in that particular way, but don't be the guy trying to sell your stuff to the networking group, because nobody's interested at that point. They're all looking to sell their stuff to you. So give them the ability to sell their stuff to you. Give them the platform to tell you all about what they have going on, and then you get to tell other people about it as well, which can build other connections and can spiral into this other stuff. Because if you send somebody a lead, now they're somehow indebted to you, indebted sort of. And you could say, hey, I happened to notice when I was looking your name up online to send to my friend that I just sent you that your reviews are not all that great on Google. Would you like me to put together a quick little audit for that? Like, could we meet maybe next Thursday or something and go over it? Really, really simple when you do it that way, guys. The key is patience, and the key is knowing the psychology, knowing how people how people work. And they don't work by you being the guy on the street going, hey, look at me, right? It's not that way. It has to be a different. You have to let them be that person, and then you have to look at them. Give them the attention they're asking for. And then once they're done being on their pedestal, you can slide in and go, hey, that's really, really cool. Let me give you value here. And when you lead with value that way, big, big difference. So hopefully that was helpful, you guys. Let's see if some of these other questions. Okay, so somebody asked, have you encountered home services niche where the jobs these tradespeople get are mainly provided by insurance companies to them? Your advice is appreciated. Thanks. So this is, in some states, there's a lot of weirdness around insurance companies and providers in trade industries, because it's not exactly what you just said, but there are some things that way. So for instance, a roofer might say, hey, if you sign up with us, we pay your insurance deductible, right? So sometimes there's that interaction, and then sometimes there's the interaction you're talking about, which is where the insurance company recommends a provider. I've had a little bit of experience with that, not a ton of experience, like not as a niche, right? Like I've not dealt, with a large swath of people who are typically just getting jobs through insurance companies. But there's before somebody can get in a job from an insurance company, there usually has to be some sort of inspection done, or there usually has to be some sort of validation of the actual problem. And sometimes those insurance companies are going to, sometimes somebody's going to call the insurance company and they're going to say, hey, I've got this damage on my roof. I just need to know if I'm covered for this and whatnot. And they say, yeah, let me send you our certified people or whatever. There's nothing you can do about that. All the digital marketing in the world isn't going to solve that if that person calls that person, has them come out and do that. But that's not everybody, right? And you have to focus on the niche that you can serve. So if you have a particular person who's going, look, I get all of my leads from the insurance company, it's your job to say, well, how many are you missing that aren't calling the insurance company because they haven't got around to it, or they don't know yet, or what are the other circumstances where an insurance company might not be involved until after an inspection, right? Start opening those doors and say, hey, listen, if your business is going well because of the insurance companies, that's fantastic. You keep doing a good job. Hopefully you're able to salvage that relationship. But what happens if that company sells? What happens if the insurance company sells to another one and they decide to change the process? Your whole business is built on that leg. You're better off to invest money right now into building your business in multiple ways, so you have multiple streams of income coming into your business, and you're clearly doing well. This is the time to do it because you can afford it and it will pay off long term. And it also takes a little while to kick in. If you're doing SEO, you know, it could be 12 months down the road before this starts to work. And now you have a business that's also built on really stable legs, right? And Google has a track record of not changing with a singular focus of providing something, where insurance companies, you know, things change all the time in those corporate environments. A new CEO comes in. Who knows what happens, right? So it's your job to sell around that. And if this is too much of a hurdle that you're up against, you constantly run into it, find something else. There's millions of businesses out there, guys, and you cannot get discouraged if you run up against a roadblock because one of them, or one niche, or one, you know, you keep talking to a few people that are, you know. And what's funny is us as humans, and I do this just as well as anybody, I could go talk to 5 people and I could be like, nobody wants this. 5 people tell me that this is ridiculous. Nobody wants it. Nobody out of like 5 out of the 7 billion on the planet, right? You have to sometimes check yourself and go, okay, it's clearly not that nobody wants this. I'm talking to the wrong people. How do I get in front of the right ones? How do I keep pushing? How do I keep moving towards the success? That's it. You have to be more interested in your success than what somebody is telling you that rejects your success. Does that make sense? Like you can't be like, oh man, these people just say they don't want it. I don't care about those people. I know what I want to create in my world. I know what I want my business to be. I know what client I want to get. They exist somewhere in this world. And I know that if I stop looking, I won't find them. But if I keep going, I will run into them at some point, right? So that's important. All right. So yeah, Michael, you asked, am I saying is prospecting mostly face-to-face meeting, local deliverable area? Very often. However, with this age of the internet, and this is where LinkedIn is a really big opportunity, you guys, and I don't do this a lot personally, so I can't speak to it as an extreme expert, but you need to understand LinkedIn is basically Facebook for business professionals, okay? Because business professionals are busy running their business, and it's like an online networking group, right? Everybody's trying to sell their stuff. When you deliver value, and this is just a core function of marketing, when you deliver value to the right people who can buy your stuff, some point you will have the opportunity for them to buy your stuff. So LinkedIn is a fantastic place if you're going to take this beyond a local deliverable area. You're going to start building relationships on LinkedIn, the same as you might have in a Facebook group, right? Every one of you in here is in some Facebook group, and you can comment as much as you want. You can ask as many questions as you want. You can be as involved as you want. You need to be doing that online if you're going to start connecting people, and then you need to offer real value. Go live on your Facebook page, offer value to people, see what happens. You might do 1, nothing happens. You might do 200, nothing happens. But 201, you might land a 5-figure a month client, right? There's never going to be a problem with you delivering value, because that content, if it's valuable once, it's valuable always. All right. You can repurpose that. You can push that wherever. You can do all sorts of things with that. Just make sure that you collect it properly, and you're speaking to the right audience, right? A message to market to market match, sorry, is really, really vital when you're looking at these sort of things. So am I actually speaking to somebody who is interested in SEO, or am I talking to insurance agents? If you're talking to insurance agents, there's almost nothing you can do. It's one of the niches that I don't deal with predominantly, because there's too many regulations around it. There's too much red tape on what can be said and what can be done. I don't have the time to jump through those kind of hoops, right? Medical stuff, there's too much regulation around it. You have to be really careful on what you say. And if you accidentally push something out for your client that's not compliant to some other law that you didn't specifically know about or whatnot, and it becomes a lawsuit and this and that, I don't want that level of responsibility. However, if somebody needs a roof, I'm very happy to connect them to a roofer. If somebody is in need of a dentist, sure. If somebody is in need of flooring or whatever it is, right? Take your pick. Totally fine to do that. There's, some things you just stay out of with SEO. I do anyways. All right, so let's see here. Wow, just opened my mind from the standpoint of sales, extra skills that can be told to a prospect client. Thanks a lot. Oh, great. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're getting some good stuff out of this. So guys, give me a hashtag value if this has been valuable so far. You guys have been with me for about 46 minutes this morning. I want to make sure that none of that has felt like a waste or anything, that you only feel great about listening to what I'm talking about right now. And if there's something that I haven't covered or something that you'd like to know a little bit more about, please ask the question. I know that there was somebody that asked about Facebook ads earlier, so I'm going to go back to that question and make sure that we discuss that from starting an SEO agency side of this. So I mentioned this in one of the other things, and you guys, if you have questions, put them in now while I'm going through this. I mentioned this in one of the other days that we were live. Using Facebook ads to drive leads to your agency is a much different process. If you guys understand what I just laid out with networking and some of the quote like secrets there, you can imagine how hard that is to replicate in an ad environment. You're starting at a much different context with your prospect, right? If you're in a networking group, you already know that you're business owners. You already know that you're looking to grow your business. There is a given that's involved, right? The given on this is got to do with the context of the meeting that you're at. When you're doing a Facebook ad, nothing is given. The only thing that's given is that somebody's going to have the opportunity to engage with it if they see it. Okay, and that's if they see it, right? How you scroll through things all of the time and it might buzz by you and Facebook might say, boom, you got an impression, but nobody really seen it, right? Nobody connected with it to say, oh, what is that? That's the first thing you need to be able to do on Facebook is get somebody's attention, right? Just like we talked about the sales formulas, attention, interest, desire, action, right? So when you're trying to do this, there's a methodology where the value has to be perceived at a particular level that's very effective to the business owner that might see it. And one of the issues that you run into with that is that a business owner is only going to see the value in that in the time and space that they have to see that value. Okay, business owners are busy. If they're spending time on Facebook, they're usually not concerned about growing their business. Usually, right? Give me a hashtag yes, if you understand what I mean by that. If a business owner has the time to sit and scroll through Facebook and play around in a real way where they might take a little bit of their attention and put it onto your ad and click through, then they're probably not super concerned about actually growing their business. I'm being very general here. I'm being very like that's not a real true across the board statement, but generally speaking, business owners that are growing their business are working on their business during that time. So it's not the best environment to go find people that are looking for that. A lot of times startups, a lot of times people who are just getting going that still have the habit of spending a lot of time on Facebook will be there. And a lot of times those leads are not going to be the leads you're looking for. That doesn't mean they're not valuable though. And that's where having certain services that lead, that's where having a value ladder. If you guys don't know what a value ladder is, it means having a introductory service that builds to these higher tiered services and takes somebody up a ladder to the point where they're at your top level service, right? And each one of those things leads to the next. Excuse me. So in an agency, your value ladder, some of you know that Stephen and I have a software called Rep AI, and that's a reputation management software that helps local businesses get reviews, right? And I'm not pitching that right now or anything, but I'm bringing it up as an example because that's a service that can be offered that's not SEO, that's not Facebook, that's not AdWords. It's not some of these other things that are higher dollar value services, but it's still a very high value service that can be at a lower dollar amount. And you can serve those other customers and build them up that ladder. And if you don't have a value ladder built in your business, you're missing out on quite a lot. And me personally, I choose to do it that way. I don't have a value ladder specifically unless I want to. I've got it to deploy when I want to, right? So like I may take on a client that's just reputation because I see a bigger potential this way, but it's not like it's not my go-to dead set strategy, but that's me because I do everything networking and I pick and choose sort of who I'm going to work with or not. But if you're just starting out, and this is probably something that if I'm being honest with myself, if I went back in time, it would have been smarter for me to put a value ladder in place. Because listen, if you have 10 $300 a month clients on autopilot versus one $3,000 a month client, what changes if the market changes? What if I lost half of my 10 $300 a month clients? I'd still have $1,500 a month coming in, where if I lose one $3,000 a month client, done, right? So you have to understand those dynamics, and putting that value ladder in place is a very smart thing to do. So having a small offer that you can do, like I think Larry mentioned that he was doing Google My Business optimizations and then selling into something else, and he mentioned reputation and stuff as well. Having these pieces that you can upsell along the way that add more and more value, which are more and more dollars, can mean a whole lot more long term and even short term, quite honestly, because if you get on one program, like think about a networking group. If you went into a networking group and you nailed a presentation on reputation or how important it was to have your Google My Business optimized, and you presented them with an offer, hey guys, Google My Business is one of the most important properties that you can optimize when it comes to search engine optimization. How many people in here know what search engine optimization is? You don't? Well, let me tell you what search engine optimization is. Search engine optimization is connecting a person who is searching for a particular product or service online directly with your business, or at least putting you in the running. So if you can imagine going to Google and typing in plumbing in Chicago, a number of plumbers are going to come up. Search engine optimization is the process I use to make sure that you're one of the plumbers that come up in that case. And the Google My Business listing is the first place that I go to start optimizing. So what I'm going to do today, how many people in here know about their Google My Business? Okay, most of you guys do. How many people believe it's optimized? Most of you don't know, right? Well, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to do for this room only, I normally would sell something like this for $197, where I audit the Google My Business and optimize it. For this room only, I'm going to do it for $97. You guys put that in there, and you give me about 2 weeks, because just getting it into the workflow and stuff. Give me about 2 weeks, and you're going to have your Google My Business completely optimized, not only with your proper categories, but the proper keywords placed in your descriptions for your particular service. We're going to work on what images we need to make sure all of those things are in there. I'm going to set you up with 6 months worth of posts that you can deploy for the posts that are on there. And I'm going to also show you how you can do a quick little video with just your cell phone to make sure you're filling all of these fields in. If you guys want to do that, get with me after the meeting, and I'll be happy to set you up on that process. You can go to a BNI meeting and make hundreds of dollars just for showing up and talking about your service that way, right? That's an entry-level piece. Great, we got your Google My Business. What about everything else? So listen, it doesn't stop there, guys. Microsoft also has one on Bing, and there's also a number of other citations like Yelp that make sense to get all centralized, right? You start spreading, start spreading this stuff out. So I think that's a really, really good thing to get thinking about, is what are your tiered services going to be, so you can serve the lower budget client confidently while leading up to the higher dollar clients. Now, you're going to get some people, if you go into SEO groups, they're going to say my lower dollar clients are the most exhausting. They're a huge pain, this and that. You need to frame them properly. You need to set your expectations the right way. Say, look, I'm not on retainer. I'm not available 24/7. If you have a question about this, please feel free to email it to me or save it for the meeting when I deliver all of the results for this, right? I simply don't have the time to get all of these done and answer all of the questions. And if somebody has too much trouble with that and you need to refund them, or it's not right for you to work together, it's $100. It's not thousands, right? You just deal with it. You're better off to have a positive business problem that is solvable than to have the problem of not having business. Got it? So yeah, somebody's saying business owners will gobble that GMB optimization service up. I'll tell you all from experience, just share the benefit that they can expect, better exposure in Google. Absolutely. So it's the sales frameworks that we talked about yesterday. You put a pitch together based around those sales frameworks, you're going to get some traction there. So with that, yeah. So with that, I think the yeah, 10-4, yeah, perfect. Thanks, Eric. So I think that gives you guys a good idea on starting your SEO agency, getting things up and going. Larry, you got it. You're connecting the dots, buddy. And like Larry just said, you outsource the GMB setup. So if you get a VA involved, you pay them. There's a lot of controversy. I even get some weird looks at certain times. I just had a conversation. I was out in LA a few weeks ago, and I was talking to an Uber driver, and really, really nice guy, really well-meaning guy, hardworking guy. I was really impressed because he was talking about his daily goals with Uber and like running it like a real business, right? But he came up with, he was really stuck on some of the issues around, paying immigrant workers and money staying in the United States versus going out and this and that. And I told him, I said, I have VAs that are overseas. I have some people, it's a small handful that I work with, mostly on a project by project basis that help me out. And the reason is because I can't afford to run the business if I'm paying full US value. Right? But I can deliver a value that affects not only a business owner, but all of the employees of a business and all of the customers of a business, because I choose to keep my labor a little bit lower and more effective than what I'm going to find in the US. Because many times the same services that you might outsource for in the US are going to cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars, and it's going to cut your profit margin to a point that your business isn't sustainable. It's very difficult to do unless you build a really big business. So, so somebody just asked, do I ever have a problem with GMBs that you have outsourced? So here's the deal. You don't have to outsource, like you don't have to connect them as a manager to outsource that sort of stuff. You can have them outsource, you can outsource the research and implement that firsthand. You can outsource the communication, right? Hey, here's a list of the things that I need, and you set them up with your person who handles collecting those assets for you, right? So don't think of it just as outsourcing to 100% get the work done. Because listen, guys, optimizing if you already have the knowledge to optimize a Google My Business profile and you have all of the assets to do it, it's like 5 minutes worth of work for you. So you don't even have to connect your VA to actually do the optimization. But collecting everything that's needed around that from the customer, you can set them up as a customer service person. No problems there at all, as long as you have a competent person. Sometimes you might get something that happens if you optimize something and you have a VA involved. You just go back and you say, hey, you do quality control, right? You look at it and you go, oh no, this isn't right. Hey, do me a favor, can you fix this real quick? Nothing is permanent in this particular arrangement, right? You're not losing anybody money on doing it, and you're not in a position to where it's so much time that you can't take a look at it and all of that. It's a really actually good offer for an agency. So yeah, so like Tim just said, the lower price point sales are a great way to weed out bad clients as well. You might as well get paid to find out if somebody's going to be a bad client, right? And I don't mean that like, I'm saying this, live on Facebook and stuff, and I don't mean it to be a knock towards any clients or anything like that, that anybody has. But there are some clients that have unrealistic expectations, and you might as well get paid to find those out instead of doing something for free and finding out and not getting paid, right? Deliver value, deliver service, know that you did a good job, and know that you might not want to work with those people anymore. That's totally fine. It's your business. Like you get to make that decision. It's not there's no, like when it's your world, it's your world. You can use guidelines, and you can, you want to be ethical and you want to be nice and good to people, but there are some times where you just do it the way you want, and maybe somebody doesn't like it, and you go, well, when you run your business, I can not like something about yours. I don't know, whatever. I'm going to keep moving forward and doing a good job for people. We just don't happen to connect on this issue. No reason to get too caught up in it, right? So somebody just asked, how do you get VAs? And there's lots of ways to do it. I personally use Upwork.com. I do have a process for getting them. It's a little bit of a long process to explain in full detail, but the great, oh, good, somebody sending the checklist sorts, yes. So a couple of good things to know about getting the VAs, and then I'll address this question for Michelle on the Facebook side. So one of the things you want to look for with a VA I talked about earlier is you want to look for somebody who's hungry for the opportunity, that wants to do a good job, of course. If you can find somebody who's already competent, you always want to ask them a question to test their expertise before you even have a conversation with them. So with Upwork, you're allowed to add your own questions. And if I'm doing something like, if I'm getting a VA for AdWords, I might ask them something about what is an ad set in AdWords. Well, AdWords doesn't have ad sets, they have ad groups, right? So I might ask them a trick question to see if they catch it or not. Somebody who's going to catch it is very detail oriented, right? Somebody who doesn't catch it, and what's funny is you'll often get people, they'll just Google the question and then they'll paste the same responses in over and over, and you go, okay, well, at a minimum, at least they were resourceful enough to go find the answer, right? But you have to put a couple of those little guards in place. I also ask them to mention a particular phrase. So if I type out my job description, hey, I need somebody to help collect information from people to answer emails and send out emails to potential clients to get information from them so I can provide a particular service. Please reply with the words, I can email, in quotes, right? Something like that. So that way I know they read what I wrote, because many people just, like there's a lot of people will just apply for everything that comes across, no matter what it is, without even knowing, just because it's a numbers game on Upwork, right? So a couple of those little things. And then you want to get real clear, ultimately get on a call, pay those people to be on a call with you, to interview them. Don't ever assume their time is not valuable just because it's a lower dollar than what you would pay in the US. Their time is very valuable. They just have a different value structure in their where they live. And I'll tell you what, guys, for the most part, like if you Google right now, and I don't know what the true statistic is because I think it's from a few years ago, but if you Google right now, the average yearly income in India, you'll find it says something like $614 US, right? Now, inflations have changed, whatnot. It's probably like 2012 is when that info was there. But I have people in India that I pay, I pay $300 and some a month, right? Every 2 months, they're making the average yearly income over there. Those people are really excited to work. Those people really want me to send them more stuff. And you can absolutely have a very competent, good, smart, very worthwhile human on your team that can handle those things at much lower expense, that will pay more attention than most Americans would in the same situation. And I'm being very general here, I know, and I'm not trying to demean American workers. We have a lot of great American workers here, but at the wages that I'd be talking about being able to afford to pay, they can honestly go make more doing other less technical jobs, right? Like it's not a competitive marketplace at the price that I'd be willing to pay for it. Where if I go overseas, it's extremely competitive and I can actually get cream of the crop talent, right? So Upwork is the place that I go to do that. And some of these people are really great. I've got some people that are so on top of it and so nice and just, like, it's easy for us to like think about what, at least for me, it was always like, well, this is what a third world country is versus a first world and this and that. And like, well, what must that be like? I have some perception of that. And you never really know until you talk to somebody from there. When you talk to them, you go like, well, holy crap, it's the same as my world. We just have a little bit different standard of living. They're still just people, right? That might sound obvious to some of you, but I was pleasantly surprised, like, oh, these are really cool people. Like, they might speak a little bit of broken English or something, but well-meaning. And I've had some of them that have not been very well-meaning and put me on and whatnot. I'm like, oh, that's people too, right? So yes, pre-qualify Upwork and other VA applicants, even a 2 to 3 step test. Have you ever had them make a short video, voice plus English? No, I normally will get them on a live call like Skype or something where we can talk back and forth, or I talk with them on WhatsApp. But I always make them a video of me explaining things and figure out if they can understand it or not. Because the best way for me to help somebody is to teach the way I know how to teach and show somebody how to do something the way that I know how to show them. And if they can't adapt to that, that becomes a problem for me because I'm not going to write PDFs. I'm not going to type everything out this way or that way. I should, but not every single project is exactly the same. I prefer doing video for my processes. That's just that's how I like to do it, and it's my business, so that's how I do it, right? Yes, Loom, useloom.com is really, really great. Eric's saying completely changed how he's trained his VAs. Yeah, so that's useloom.com, and that's a free screen capture program where you can just share a link to the video. So you can just do a video real quick, share the link. It'll even show you when somebody's viewed the video, which is really, really cool. And it's 100% free. So yeah, let me see. Do you have a checklist of sorts of VAs for the GMB? Also, do you give them email address you want them to use, or do you have them create? Yeah, so if I'm going to have a VA work as an assistant in my company or something, they're absolutely going to have an email address that's whatever their name is at my domain name, right? I'm going to give them an email address to use in that particular situation for that. So yeah, and the trick question to filter VAs. Now, here's the real trick, in my opinion, to VAs, is that no matter what things you put in front of them that can be an indicator of somebody paying attention or not, or do they really know this or not, I'm always willing to train them. So I don't really care. It's more of just a data point for me. And it's when I look at that data point, I go, does that mean anything for real or not? And if I decide it does mean something for real, they don't make the short list. And if I look at other things and I go, no, it doesn't, that doesn't mean anything for real to me. I think this person, based on the other things that I'm looking at in their profile, is somebody that I'd be willing to talk to. I never look at those filter things or those little things I put in place as reasons to outright disqualify somebody, because people who are very good at their jobs still miss these steps. And I don't think having a perfect application makes a perfect employee. I think what makes a better employee is figuring out a little bit about who the person is and what's really driving them, right? I think that means more than whether or not they typed in the words I asked them to type, or whether they knew that an ad set is a Facebook thing and not a Google thing. Like, it's pretty obscure. But if they do know it and they say, sir, I'm sorry, but an ad set is not something that exists in Google, I know I have somebody who's very detail oriented and has experience, right? So that's what I'm doing more than anything, is to see where somebody really stands out in those responses, more so than whether or not they're valuable because of them. I hope that makes sense. So great, guys. Man, we've been on for a little over an hour. We just went through a lot of starting your agency stuff and getting an initial offer out there, value ladder, networking, sales stuff. I'm really excited. Like, we had these last few days, we've covered so much territory. There's no chance that some of you guys can't take this and make a whole bunch of money very quickly. And it all starts with what I talked about earlier today, is push that comfort zone. You guys, some of you said, well, I'm still trying to get past the roadblock, or I'm still, I don't know what the language that was used, but say you're still stuck in that space where you're just not getting over the hurdle. You're not getting over the hurdle. You need to start figuring out how you can experience being the person who does, and move into that space. And that's an uncomfortable space. You've been the person you have been for as many years as you've been that person, right? And you've acted those ways, and everything in your body is going to want to move in that same direction because it's known, it's comfortable, it's consistent, it's normal. You need to not be those things. Success is built on not being known, not being in the current known space, right? Not being in the current comfort zone, not being in what you've always been. When somebody makes that transition, it is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. That's how you know you're doing it right. right? So use that as an indicator to you, not as a reason to not do it. Say, great, I'm on the right track. I'm completely uncomfortable right now and I have no idea what's going to happen next. I must be in the right spot, right? Now, also, because I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, be mindful of what you currently have to be responsible for as well, right? Like, I don't want you to throw all caution to the wind, but I want you to push into uncomfortable situations to find that person, to meet that person halfway that's waiting for you to show up. Because at some point you're going to show up and you're going to go, holy crap, I should have done this is 10 years ago, right? And you'll be able to appreciate that about yourself, and you will grow as a result, and you'll be able to grow business on that knowledge, right? And really growing a business is not about the tactics. It's not about the technical. You know, they talk about most businesses fail within the first 2 years. And a lot of times it's undercapitalization, and a lot of times it's these things and that things. But honestly, a lot of the time is that it's people get overwhelmed. They get tired of the stress. They get tired of the discomfort. They want to go back to the comfort, and they start to lose focus on getting past that hurdle. You have to have stamina in your discomfort to push past those barriers. And once you do, once those new things become the habit, once those new things become the normal, once the comfort zone is what used to be uncomfortable, you have a solid foundation to build from. So if there's one thing you guys need to do right now, it's go get uncomfortable, but don't lose track of the current responsibilities you have. Make sure you're taking care of the thing that's most important to take care of. If you need to get a bill paid, make sure you're doing what it takes to get that bill paid while you're also moving forward. And that can be even more uncomfortable. But I promise you, you've dealt with harder things in your life. Everybody on this call has dealt with harder things in their life than getting an SEO client. It's just a fact of the matter, like, no two ways around it. I've literally had to pay cell phone bills that were more difficult than getting SEO clients. Okay. It's such a fertile territory, and you just have to get your mind past its own limitation. So, just trust me on that. It's not that those people aren't out there. It's literally you're not in their awareness. And as soon as you become in their awareness and you can show them competently that you can handle it, you have clients. The formula is really, really simple, guys. Of course, there's all these other things, right? Well, what about sales this? And what about being able to fulfill that? What about this and that? Go get a sale and don't worry about anything else. Once you get a sale, worry about those other problems. Real businesses have problems they have to solve every day. So worrying about those right now isn't going to help you in any way, shape, or form. You're going to have them anyways. You don't need to solve them before you have them. Solve them when you have them. And that's how you really grow and start to make waves in this world we call business, right? So again, you guys, thank you so much for being here with me. I am going to I'm going to bow out for the day. I've got another call I have to be on with a private group in just a few minutes. So I'll have another little bit of talking here. I want to make sure that we wish Stephen the very best. Like I said, it's not my business to talk about it anyway, but if we can just hold positive intentions there, that's a really good thing. I appreciate that from you guys. Let's see, I made a as mark or index the video. Sorry, you can't see all the question. Yeah, that's no problem there, Larry. Great. So for you guys that have been here every day, I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is our final day. I want to give you one link real quick because you're on. This is the link to the replays from the previous days. So if you guys want to catch those, you will have this as a resource to do so. This is the direct link to that. So I'll give you guys just a minute to get it. It's in the chat box right now. Actually, hold on. I just did it to panelists, so you guys don't see anything. Let me make sure I get it to attendees, give it to everybody. So now you guys should see that link in there. You can go there and see all of the replays. I'll go ahead and, just for the sake of it, I'll drop it in the Facebook group or the Facebook post as well. And I told you guys I was doing a little bit of testing. I figured I'd go live and see what happened. We got a few people to hang out with us live on Facebook, just as well as you guys here on Zoom. So kind of cool. It's always fun to play with those things. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what the response is going to be. That's part of being in the unknown, guys. It's not just something I'm up here saying. I practice it daily. I'm every day through some significant part of the day, I am uncomfortable at something I am doing. And that's the only way that I've gathered the skills that I've gotten. So yeah, big thing. Link for the FB page, please. I don't have an FB page to link out. I just have my personal profile. I can give you guys that if you want. Nothing too exciting there. But I just went ahead and went live on that just to see what other people would come on. But yeah, if you want to go to my personal profile, there's my Facebook link. No big deal there. If you friend request me, I have tons of friend requests that I've just not gotten through. So please don't be offended if you don't see me respond immediately. That's something every once in a while I take a look at and go, oh, there's 300 people waiting that have friend requested me, and I'll go through and whatnot. So working hard on worldwide, refining it as I go, market segment countries. What if you're losing money by not doing it? Looks like education this way. Any thoughts? Can I reach you personally if need to? Yeah, Michael, if you can, if you want to go ahead and summarize that in like a really short screen capture video or something, like go use loom.com with just what you have there, and feel free to send it to me on Facebook. And I'll take a quick peek at it. If there is some insight that I have, I'll certainly share it with you. If it makes more sense to go over it like as a question on tomorrow's call, I might just answer it on tomorrow's call as well. So yeah, feel free to do that, just because it looks like what you're talking about might be a little bit complex. And I don't, I unfortunately just don't have time to get into it at the moment because I have that other call to be on. So that's totally fine if you decide to do that. So you guys, again, thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate all of your time and attention, and the fact that you guys all say you get value out of this. It's the only reason for us to do it. So thank you again. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow on our final day of this. Thanks a lot, everybody.